Now this illustration deals with computer grounding using a spacer. In accordance with NEC 250.96b, but it also could be used in accordance with 645.15 in some cases. Now notice the note, we are trying to accomplish an equal potential plane. Now if it happens to be any kind of agricultural type settings, then 547.2 and 547.10 deal with an equal potential plane. It's defined in 547.2, but how to build one is in 547.10. But now if you're in a computer room and the room meets the definition of a computer room, then 645.15 would rule. And then notice we could use the raised floor, the metal of the raised floor, bond all the enclosures of the sensitive electronic equipment to such framework. Or we could build equal potential plane by using number 4 conductors stripped and put on 2-foot centers. You know, they do that in the past. A lot of equipment now is designed, though, different, much different than the equipment that was sensitive in the past. But now notice isolated equipment grounding conductors and terminals could be used by cord and plug connecting by 250.146D as in dog that we looked at. If we're looking at a raised floor, we would go to 645.5D as in dog. But now for a non-metallic spacer or fitting, it shall be listed for such use, and we would look at 250.6D as in dog, 645.15, and 408.40 exception if it's applicable. Now the figure loop says, well, you can also review figures 16-99 as well as figure 7-22A and B for cord and plug connected equipment. Now chapter 7 is in volume 1 of Stallcup's electrical design book. But what we're saying right above the figure loop, that you either cord and plug connect in accordance with 250.146D and the informational note, or 250.96B as in boy informational note where you hardwire. Now, we've looked at the grounding electrode system, the grounding electrodes, so I won't bother you with that again. But now notice that spacer is placed right at the equipment to the right where we have the non-metallic spacer. Now it's put there for a reason. If the equipment is generating noise or any kind of magnetic electric field currents, the spacer will stop that current from flowing over the metal and raceway right there. And then the equipment ground that is sized off of the breaker in the service equipment is routed over and connected to the sensitive electronic equipment. Any noise that might be generated over that equipment ground will in most cases kind of choke it down about 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way from the sensitive electronic equipment routed toward the service equipment. It'll choke out the noise in such a manner it doesn't become a problem. If you're picking up noise from the service equipment connection to ground, as you see in the illustration, then again, about 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way from the equipment ground routing from the service equipment to the sensitive electronic equipment, it'll choke out the noise in such a manner that it will not create a problem to the operation of the equipment. So we're looking at two things: noisy signals, unwanted currents that might come in from the service equipment that would be objectionable. Any noise that the equipment might generate is isolated in this manner or reduced in this manner to where it may not be a problem. Now the feeder, as you see there, is designed by 215.2A1A, the conductors. The overcurrent device is selected from 215.3, and everything is listed, labeled, and approved in accordance with 110.3B and C of the code. Now, these are the most important sections related to 250.96B when you're hardwiring. Now, there are other call-outs that you see for a disconnecting means, ventilation, light switch, and those kind of things. But remember, to use Article 645, it must be determined that it is a computer room is outlined in 645. If that's not the case, if just one item in the definition of a computer room is missing, it's not a computer room, and you must remember that. But what this figure 16-133 is illustrating is when we're using a non-metallic spacer between the raceway system and the sensitive electronic equipment in accordance with 250.96B of the code.